Springfield Armory's Garrison. This is the $700 to $800 MSRP 1911 that they got out. Let's dive into this thing and see what we got. Just keep in mind, knowing fair well that going into this thing, what you're really paying for is the frame, slide, and barrel and everything, because those are forged. So we're going to clear this. All right, start with depressing this right here, and this is not necessarily a how to take it apart video. This is, we're just going to look at the parts and see what we got in there. So, all right, take out the recoil spring, turn this the other way, put out the bushing, and remove the barrel. Take a look at the barrel here, and mine is a ramp barrel because it's a 9mm. You can see all that. So, no big surprise that the barrel is pretty good quality. Everything nice, very nice. You can see there it's a cold and rainy day today, so we decided to tear into this thing, and I'll be honest with you with everything about what I've done to this gun and everything. So when I actually first got this barrel bushing was fitted very poorly. I actually had to take a file and bring it down just a little bit because you could not turn it. I mean, it just was stuck really good in there, and it was not. It was definitely beyond what I wanted it. I want to be able to at least hand turn it, and it felt like I needed to get a pipe wrench out or something like that. So, all right, we're going to take out the firing pin and see what all that looks like. And so I'm just going to take a little punch here and depress that and slightly move the back plate down, capturing it, and before it goes off into orbit and breaks your light bulb or something like that above, I'm going to turn it down, and I'm just going to slide the plate off from the rear straight into the bench here. There it goes, right there. Okay, let's take a look at the back plate. Assuming that yes, it is a MIM part, you can see all the casting marks right there, and you can see here the casting mark there. So this is where they're, whenever you suspect of, and I mean, I'm not saying that $700-800 is cheap, but this is where they're getting the cost down for you. This is how they're doing it. All right. Nothing unusual there. It looks pretty good. But that just keep in mind, that's kind of where they're getting at with the price point and everything. Okay, now to remove the extractor here. The extractor is on a 1911 in 9mm. It's got a heavy tension on it, and I'm going to go ahead and I just need to push this on the side here. Now, the reason I'm not showing you this is because it's rather difficult to do, but what I'm doing is I'm pushing the extractor on over, and then I'm going to put my thumb here and just kind of wedge it under there, protect the slide, and I'm just going to push that up right there. Okay, there's the extractor and the hook and everything. Looks like it was fitted pretty well before they blued it, because I don't see any. Normally you'll see like some filing marks on it before they blew it, and I'm wondering if we're going to see any kind of castings or anything like that. And then, on 9mm ones, well, most any of them, they're going to have a nice bend to them to kind of tension them. So, all right, and then that's it on the slide. We pretty much know the slide is going to be good. Now they've been adding. I noticed this with my Ronin. They've been adding at least what appears to be some numbers here. Now in this case, this numbers coincide with the last digits of the serial number on the frame. All right, moving on over to the frame. This is where it kind of gets a little more complicated, but not too bad. Remember, that's a wonderful design of John Browning. So, all right. I'm going to go ahead and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put pressure on the back of this right here, and I'm going to move the thumb safety up and down until it comes off. And there it is. Now mine is a different thumb safety. It's a Colt teardrop. Sorry, I bumped the camera. But I keep my hand over here because I don't want this detent spring to come jetting out and all that. So, all right. And then from there, I'm going to let tension off the hammer. I don't let the hammer just slam forward under the frame. That's bad for it. Okay, what I'm doing is relieving the tension off there so I can remove the pin right here and take your punch. And I use the one with the ball in the end of it. Alright, and just go ahead and tap that right out. Just like that. Slide your mainspring housing off. Hands are a little slick. This one's tight. So sometimes this one is tight because this one's been coated. I forgot. All right, and then there's your sear spring. Sear spring has just got the that controls the trigger, the sear, and your grip safety right there, and it lives right in there. And that little hook lives right there in the frame. Actually, get this strut out of the way. You can see when it goes, it lives right down in there, and then this will put tension on that right there, and then you can see where they connect all in there. Alright, so springs all should be, I replaced my mainspring housing. I did not, I like the arch mainspring housing. Of course, my hammer, now my hammer is different. My hammer is a actual tool steel hammer I got from Wilson Combat. I did that because I wanted a lighter mainspring in it, and I needed the mass and the weight to come down, and plus I like the retro look. Alright, just gotta remove the sear and disconnector here. There they are. We'll get these wiped off so we can take a look at them, because there will be no big surprise that these are MIM parts. See it there, and you can actually see the castings right there. So no big surprise. And on the other side of the grip safety, definitely MIM. So this is how they're lowering the price for you. Now, some of this, now this kind of part like this, it really is not doing much. Yes, it's part of the the safety. We're gonna go ahead and remove the this is your magazine release and trigger. So what it's doing here, its job is basically, you can't pull the trigger because it's going to bump into this, but if it's depressed, it can come back here. So that's all it's really doing. So that's their main contact area. So this part being MIM, yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter. I guess if you really think about it, I guess it could leave a bad taste in your mouth. The trigger is, it's aluminum trigger, lightweight. So, and I did some extra fitting on it a little bit to kind of clean it up a little. In here it's really not necessary, but you can take this out if you want to. Remember, the end that goes in first is going to have a kind of a step down right there. You can see it. That's the end that goes in first. There's usually a kink or like an offset in these springs that's done on purpose, so it stays in there. But for the most part, that's it. Your frame is pretty much done for. You could take apart your mainspring housing by setting this down and depressing this and then driving this pin out, which you go in from this side, because you'll notice there's a flat end on it, and that end's the flat end that goes in that kind of holds it. It's kind of a pain in the butt to do. I only do it if I absolutely need to, but it's kind of interesting to see all the parts and what we got here. So yeah, of course your magazine release there. Yep, it's got a casting mark on it, so I'm going to go ahead and call MIM. MIM. Does it make it a bad gun? No. I mean, really, all these things you can really buy and redo, or, you know, buy tool steeled ones or replacement parts like I've done. You can, you know, that is a way you can do it. So what I do is I just use that little handy gizmo right there and turn the screw there, so it kind of puts the magazine back together right there. Alright, so again, a couple of main things that I replaced. Mainspring housing, because I want the arched one. That's the only reason. It's an Ed Brown. They only had it in stainless, so I actually coated mine. Wilson Combat tool steel hammer. I actually used their strut, the strut that came with it from Springfield Armory. I just removed the hammer, but you can see the strut is actually a MIM part. So these are things like if I was going to replace some parts, that if I wanted to dive deeper into this, because you know, again, this is a gun that I don't know. I mean, a lot of things, you know, leave my collection quite often. So obviously, if I was going to sell this, I would just restore it back to its all the original parts that it came in. That's why I keep all that stuff, put it in the same box and everything if I was going to sell it, and take back my good stuff, because these are not cheap. But if I was going to go through and actually, you know, get all the, I want to change all these, you can. I mean, this is something you can do down the line, spend a little bit of money apart here, one piece at a time, as the man in black would say. You know, you could replace it. And I definitely would replace the strut with a tool steel one. Just anything like that, stress related stuff, especially sear and disconnector. You know, if you want to, you could, but I don't. I mean, I would probably just keep that. It's not that important to me, in my opinion. But anyway, here we go. Let's just put this all back together. Let's see. You know what? We're in trouble. I don't remember how this all goes. How does this go? And that's going to drive itself back up into here. And it lives in that setup like that. Top of the disconnector is going to come up through the hole, drive the smaller pin through there. Sometimes you have to get something else and kind of help line them up from the other side. And there it goes right there. Alright, put your hammer back in there. Hammer slides in like that. Line it up. Get that out of the way. Alright. Sear spring. Alright. Now I let that down. And you kind of make sure your strut goes on top of the where it needs to be, right there, on top of there. Needs to live right on top of there. Then I can put this back in there and shut it up the rest of the way. Yeah. Oh, and this one's going to be difficult, isn't it? Okay, put my pin back in there. I tell you, trying to do this around your phone or your camera is certainly an interesting experience. All right, take my little punch. Drive this in the rest of the way. Right there. Okay. Alright, so there you can test out your hammer. and it works. If it doesn't, if it just trips back off, then you got to go back through. Something wrong with the sear spring. It didn't go back in correctly. All right, I'm going to go ahead. Now, hammer's got to be cocked to put the thumb safety back in. I'll put it back in there like that. And I just take something like that, come in from this way to push the detent out of the way, and it will slide right down. There you go. Actually, now if you do replace that as a fitted part, you're going to have to do some fitting file work. How I learned that? By screwing up and having to cost myself money and replace parts. Alright, extractor back in here. Okay, extractor's down in there. Firing pin goes in there. Slide. I can test to make sure the slide will come over, because there's a cutout on the side of the extractor here. There it goes. So you can make sure it slides freely through there. Make sure you got it right. And I'm going to slide this down ever so slightly. Okay, start my firing pin. And this is the scary, tricky part. Because that'll take off on you if you're not careful, and doing this on camera is definitely a lot more tricky. Alright, putting barrel back in. Barrel goes into the front. Barrel bushing. That little nubbins right there. Okay, and that turns in there. Now I can put my recoil spring back in. I put my index finger right there to help align the slide and frame. Make sure the link lines right up. Drop that back in there. Avoid the idiot scratch. Moving it to that notch right there. And instead of trying to force and override it sometimes, I come in through here with a little punch and help move that out of the way. Okay. Do a function test. Pull the trigger, holding it down. Work the slide, release, and hammer stays back. There you go. That is inside the Springfield Armory Garrison.